Hey guys, welcome back to another What If Here. Today we are doing possibly most definitely, possibly the long-awaited part 11 to What If Kurama's chakra turns Naruto into a female. And, I'm actually going to somewhat give you a, short version of part 10, or more so the ending, because that is 4 hours long, which was a lot of, we didn't really get much done, funny enough. It was more full of detail and that, and so, pretty much, I think they'd come back from a mission, or they're already in Konoha, and Kakashi was somewhat thinking, because his team, him, Sasuke, Sakura, and Naruto needed to do an actual survival training, as you're meant to do it once every month or two, and they have they're somewhat 3 months out of it, though Kurama would pretty much get now to do it roughly once to twice a week. Mainly once a week. And Kakashi had thought of that and had somewhat asked Hideouts if he could take his team out to the Valley of the End, or around there, so they would have a somewhat river, so they won't have to worry about say foraging for water, or that would come maybe a month or two down the line, so they could somehow find a river source or that. Hideouts had agreed and had said to come back at the last day of the month, as the Kazekage, the fourth Kazekage, was coming with his 2 sons and daughter to come to Konoha, and the Kazekage was coming to pretty much do the treaty, and Kakashi was somewhat surprised, but it said okay, and it somewhat was wondering why he'd bring his kids, as Hideouts would somewhat see the confusion, and the Kazekage always asks if his children ever want to come to Konoha with him to see see another hidden village. So Kakashi would go, but I don't think I've ever really seen them before. It's no, though he somewhat sends his thanks. As Kakashi goes, thanks for what? Well, seems like our own, say, unpredictable ninja had made a friend with the Kazekage's son. As Kakashi would blink, what? And they went and after that Kakashi had told his team to somewhat bring a couple of kunai, some ninja wire, and given they'd somewhat nodded, and he somewhat was less relaxed on Naruto, as Kakashi gave her a pretty much pick on sealing jutsu, on fin jutsu, and she's currently around, I think, a level either 6 or 10, though that's kind of her standard, not Uzumaki. I think she's around a level 10, which would make her a level 1 in Uzumaki standard. Level 1 is around a level 10 in her standards. So, yes. and they'd somewhat spreaded. So once they'd got into the Valley of the End, well, yeah, she has sealing jutsu's formula, sealing scrolls pretty much on her hands themselves, with one being kunai, the other one being kunai, the other one being shuriken, and another one she had two more, which one was pretty much full of ninja wire, and not always, just any time they'd go on a mission she'd fill it up with ninja wire, and the other one was some camping stuff and that, and cooking utensils. But if no Kakashi told her no pretty much cooking utensils, he would say bring them though. Yeah, anyway, and he told them he'd set somewhat of a challenge to see who could make the best camping space. So that if they were to ever say not need one, say if they were to ever actually be in a situation where they're running low on stuff and they're having to run, and they're having to somewhat, it's they've got no camping gear, no nothing really, who's the best one to be in charge of setting up, making a camp of sorts, and which one would be the most secure. And they were all Naruto had somewhat asked if she could just transform into an animal, and some of the animals live out in the open. Kakashi told her no, and that she would very much have to build a hideout. She decided, but went along with it. And I'd thought about a cave, and Kakashi told her within eyesight, which she could see none, and neither could Kurama see through her eyes, and as such, she decided to somewhat build underground. They'd somewhat chosen where they would roughly build a hideout. And Kakashi, I believe, I'm gonna have to track back, but I believe he's doing I think he's doing something similar to Sakura, which is just somewhat of a house, kind of. Sasuke is making a tree house in a tree, and Naruto, she's making a underground home/base. It's kind of up to you what you'd call it. It's you'd live there, so you'd call it a home, not a base, but it could very easily transform into a base. So yes, well, let me quickly check on what I decided on what Kakashi would be making. Yes, he is making a house. Kakashi is making a house, and so time skip a couple hours later, the sun would be, think roughly, in the, would be around midday, I think, or it was midday when they would arrive, and it would start getting to night, as, they would somewhat come up. Naruto had somewhat finished a minute ago, so she was somewhat just having fun with Kurama in the her underground home. So yeah, they'd meet up at the river once again, as Kakashi would go, as it's starting to get night. I'd think firstly we should should all go and try and maybe some of us go catch some fish, get some water and get firewood and other food. they'd all somewhat nod and would Gighashi would assign different tasks. He'd assign Naruto the one like for picking like wild fruit and that, or well anything like anything edible in the forest. Sasuke would be getting the fish, Sakura would be getting like firewood, and Kakashi would get the water. And well, yeah, a couple minutes would go by as well, another half an hour would go by as they'd all once again meet up, and well, they would then somewhat sit down and like cook the fish and share out the fruit and that that Naruto picked. Well, that Naruto and Kurama had picked, because Kurama was somewhat just staying around. She didn't have to worry like about having to say suppress any amount of chakra. She could just slap 3 tails worth of chakra out. Well, yeah, and it wouldn't reach Konoha, though for anyone that was somewhat walking like by, they would most definitely feel like the 9 tails chakra and would get even paranoid and get scared and run for it. So yeah, and yeah, after they'd eaten, I should go now then. So what order should we view these, say, like bases, and like say attempt at say like a shelter? And Naruto a minute ago, can I show mine last? As Kakashi go, sure, is it still, like, are you still not done? Oh no, it's done, I just want to go last. You'd go, well, you two fine with that? Sasuke and Sakura would just nod and go, yeah, we're fine with it. As Kakashi would go, well, which one's out of usual? Then go, say next, say like before Naruto, and well, Sasuke would put his hand up and go, well, I'll go before Naruto then. They would nod as Sakura would go, well, Sensei, how about you go first? As Kakashi would go, no, ladies first. As it's like, oh, then Ruby should, Naruto should go first. As Naruto go, no, promise me you'd want to see mine last. As they'd somewhat think, oh, save, maybe it's either quite bad or because everyone else didn't really know she had, well, nobody knew she could actually use Earth, and the only reason why she could manipulate Earth was because she'd asked Husen how to manipulate Earth, like the level 1 and level 2 for manipulation of Earth, and Husen had told her and wrote down it on a scroll, and yeah, she'd sent 50 clones, though when her and Kurama decided how big it would be and how quickly she'd need to master Earth Affinity, they decided to, Kurama told her to send another, to create 1,950 more clones, so there'd be 2,000 clones working on Earth mastery, trying to somewhat at least master level 1, but if they could, move on to level 2. And by the time they'd was somewhat collecting, because it was going to be big, massive, and so Naruto had sent out like 10,000 clones. Kurama had decided that she'd stay and not make the plans that were already made, she already made them, but sort all the material out and like from small, medium, large, extra large, and just what was usable, what was unusable, and what could possibly be, say, used but wasn't sure yet. And yeah, and they all went their kind of separate ways after that. And yeah, and well, yeah, Kakashi and Sasuke, Sakura and Kakashi would finally settle on an order. Sakura would go first, and then Kakashi, then Sasuke, then lastly Naruto. As they'd go as it would be something, well, it'd be like a nice, say, 2-story house with, 2 bedrooms. One, obviously, one for the girls, one for the boys. So, male and female. And then another room for, bathroom. And though each one somewhat had their own kind of bathroom, though the max, obviously, she could do without really any ceiling jutsu was just like a somewhat hole in the ground, and just have to dump water into it to somewhat flush it outside of it. But yeah, and then or at least say when you went then downstairs into somewhat, say, like a kitchen area, see, there was some wooden tops by using wood, and those, wasn't really a sink, though there was somewhat of a cooker stove, though that was mainly just say she could remember how to somewhat make concrete, because Konoha would obviously know how to do that, and Sakura had looked up how to somewhat, not exactly looked up, just her somewhat being smart had decided to learn a lot of things, and one of those was randomly how concrete was made. And as such, she'd it was concrete with fire, say sticks on the bottom that could light up, obviously on fire too. So pots and pans and whatever could be set on top and heated up from the bottom. Yeah. And it was, it was alright. It was kind of interesting. Next would be Kakashi's, which would somewhat, it wouldn't look the same, because Kakashi, of course, could do jutsu in all 5, though he somewhat mainly preferred using his own lightning element over everything else, though he did know, obviously, the benefit of knowing Earth, because you could really, in a pinch, you could obviously make a giant wall or something like that, and as such, it somewhat made the house as well, though this one was somewhat, it was a 1-story house instead, with still 2 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, a rough bathroom. He does obviously know how to somewhat do Frinjutsu, and as such he can't exactly do, say, the likes of say Naruto, where she could, say, make a, say, seal that would, say, when you, say, touched it, it would say send a certain amount of, say, water, a flush, you'd flush the toilet, a certain amount of water drains. That's what obviously Naruto could do with seals and that, though she was obviously running up against most of what she knew how to do, and she didn't exactly want to try and experiment right now, because if she tries, she could possibly blow up her entire underground base by mistake, home by mistake, and as such she decided to not experiment at all and just do somewhat skills that she knew, or some skills that she was somewhat working on but could somewhat work, or if the idea was very much, say, possible, and then she'd try it, but if it didn't work she wouldn't put too much time into trying to get it to work. Yeah. Well, yeah, so Kakashi's would just be somewhat a smaller version of Sakura's, because obviously, you know, he'd obviously been a journey, you know, something, say, tall would be, like, you know, stick out very much so. And, well, yeah, it was also, right, somewhat, while Sakura's was more of a, like, flat roof, his was somewhat pointed. And next I'd go to Sasuke's one, who he'd made a treehouse, though it was pretty much like a just well, it's more so like, say, two separate, well, it was in a tree, though it had it mainly only had two separate, well, it had 3 rooms, one which is where you'd enter and, say, hang out and talk, and then the next one, or the next 2, were the bedrooms, one for the boys, one for the girls. That was it. If you need to go toilet, you'd have to go back down the tree, or, say, obviously cook food or anything like that, it would have to be away, down and away from the tree. So yeah. Well, yes, Kakashi should point out, obviously, the reason why tree houses aren't really a great idea for, say, you know, like, hey, say, somewhat camping out or anything high for that matter, is because it can be easily spotted. Like, they would all somewhat nod, and Kakashi would look at that and go, well, you're next, you're the last one. As she would just somewhat nod, as Kurama would just look at it and go, it'll be okay, come on, you know, you've seen that, as, you know what they've built, and they've got nothing on us. She would somewhat nod, and Kakashi would be interested, because, well, like, obviously you could somewhat use wind chakra, he wasn't that great in it, so you could get some, say, like wood planks and that, but it would just take him a lot longer than someone whose, obviously, affinity it was, well, being Naruto. The only affinity she had, no, the only thing she had left, the only chakra nature she had left to learn was lightning. And if she could learn that, then she'd have all 5, she'd be able to do, well, either do or just use all 5 basic chakra natures. So yeah, they'd arrive at the areas, they'd all just look at and go, where is it? There's nothing here. Like, Sasuke had a tree house, me and Sensei had a house. It's like, yeah, and what's the third thing, Sakura? Like floating base, is it floating? I'd go, could have done that, but no, you know, same reason why somewhat Kakashi Sensei had told us that it, well, just told us with Sasuke and Sasuke building treehouse, and you build in a 2-bedroom house, so you built underground, yes, then why is the entrance? Right here. I should would put a foot over a somewhat hidden sill. It was visible but very hard to see, as you channel a bit of chakra into it, as the floor, or as a chunk of the ground would sink down slightly, then move, as though just all somewhat look at it. She'd go, well done, and as she, well, they would follow her in as they'd go, whoa, like how, like, you know, is it, like how long did it take you? I didn't know you could use Earth. It's like, well, I asked Gigi if he like how to train in Earth, like in Earth chakra, in Earth manipulation, and he'd give me a scroll on level 1 and level 2, and this was the best chance I'd made around 2000 close to go and learn how to manipulate Earth, whilst me and Kura and another 1000 or so clones went and collected materials for, well, Kurama had stayed back with 5-10 clones to, well, help Kurama in sorting the materials out and what we could use, what we couldn't, and like different sizes of, say, trees, logs, and all of that. They'd just nod as they'd somewhat then kind of stop us. But now they'd then stop us, they'd go, why have you stopped? Like, we can't see nothing. Just wait a second, I should put a hand on the wall and channel chakra to another somewhat seal. Yes, you know, well, seals in the ceiling which can produce, well, light from chakra would activate. Pretty much the entire, she had somewhat, say, a centralized, like giant chakra storage seal, and from there it would branch off to, say, like a switch for, say, like lights of, say, certain places. So they would just channel a bit of chakra into, say, that kind of switch, and the lights would come on or off. And as I just said, that would be used for more so, storage of chakra, and I was like going up throughout the base. So it's pretty much a giant battery to somewhat run everything. As well, it would somewhat, say, look like this, as you can currently see, though a lot bigger. Think of that, but that's more so, say, like the living quarters for one person. She had around 10,000 clones working, so a couple of them would work on the bedrooms and made 4 living areas, which would, so you'd go from the main place, which was giant and just beautiful, into, say, like the living area, living quarters, where it'd have 4, as you'd also have like so you'd have a wooden sign saying like her place, Sakura's, Kakashi's, and Sasuke's places. They'd go throughout each one and would be stunned at what they saw. Something like this. Heck, they'd been stunned the second they walked in, because it was just massive and how beautiful. Kakashi was expecting something massive, but he wasn't expecting something like this. Something just incredibly beautiful. And to know she'd ripped it up very quickly, within a couple of hours, was surprising. And like when they went back to the main areas, the main kind of area, like she's like, well, over there is, say, like where we'd go to cook. That's like our just living quarters, where we'd live, say, sleep, and have, like, you know, bath. It's like baths, like, so do they function? It's like, yep, fully function. I somewhat had an idea for a seal, and I tried it out, and it worked the first time. So yeah, you'd have somewhat you'd have, say, for, like, say, cold, you'd have freezing cold water, and for the hot, nice hot water as well, all all done by sealing jutsus. Well, funjutsu. And yeah, like say toilet, you can send once you've done your business, channel a bit of chakra into where it would where you'd see it, and it would flush it all away pretty much into another seal which would store it, and then fling it. Then another seal would activate and pull all that junk out far away, from the underground home, so that no one would actually know where this is. Because if they're ever using, say, something like dogs or something that can track via smell, they would obviously be able to smell it and would start going off in that direction, the complete incorrect direction from where we would be staying. So just stare at her and just they'd just be amazed as just go, well, yeah. Then they'd go to the the kitchen area, as that would be obviously separate from the living area, as it would be massive area, proper working, it would have fully functioning sink, a fully working say oven, because obviously it was using seals, so it would use somewhat say the main say battery or chakra seal, chakra storage seal, which should run lines to it to connect to it, so the seal would be able to activate it once. So it's only touch it, they would then activate it, and the somewhat more chakra you sent into the seal, the more chakra would flow to the seal that produced the fire for in the oven, so it'd get hotter, and there'd be 4 other small seals on the top for your hobs, so where you'd put pots in that to possibly maybe boil water for pasta or rice or something else you'd use it for, or cooking a curry or something like that. So yeah, and they just stand and shoot and they would go, well, come this way. I'd think this is the best part, as they would follow her, as it would be a giant inside underground swimming pool. She just Kurama, just Sakura, would remember how somewhat concrete was made. Of course, Sakura would know what the elements were and could somewhat summon them using Earth Chakra, and so could Naruto, knowing how to use Earth Chakra. As such, they'd made concrete and somewhat made a beautiful swimming pool with a slide, so they could just go up, slide down, and the water in the pool was obviously filtered and that, and so it'd be filtered and kind of ran through, but all just using seals, and another seal which would pull some of the pool water from it, and would then transport it from the bottom of the swimming pool up onto the slide where the water would rush back down into the pool. So yeah, it was just giant, beautiful, and they didn't know what to say. If this was something she could her Kurama and 10-20,000 clones could pull together from half a day, what could they do with even more time on their hands? So yeah, as actually it got why would you guys like to stay? He would say he already made up his mind where he wants he wants to stay doing this whole entire training, like survival training trip. Sasuke just stare at him and go, "I think you know our answer, Sensei." As they'd all look at Naruto to shrug and go, "Well, that's why I made you kind of your own somewhat living quarters. I thought you may have chosen mine, so guessing you like it." They'd all just stare at it and go, "It's beautiful, we love it. It's incredible. It's insane. It's how?" As Naruto go, "What do you mean? How can you do all this while Genjutsu and Earth Chakra and a load of clones, like over 20,000 clones, I think I was using to create this place?" As they just go, they just be left speechless, as they just somewhat go to my quarters. They'd all somewhat think, just like, they thought theirs was, good and great, and then Naruto just simply shows, in like half a day what obviously they all had the same amount of time, half a day, and it's like hers was just insane. And they'd all Kurama would somewhat kind of go to Kakashi and go, "Hey, Kakashi," as Kakashi would look at Kurama and go, "Yeah, Kurama, what is it?" Last night, I think a couple of nights ago, one of my kitsunes had come to me and asked, because Ruby now has the to somewhat go there with, more so to so that they could, the other kitsunes and the other kitsunes could see the somewhat the new summoner of the Kitsune clan, the first ever summoner of the Kitsune clan. As Cash would go, "I'm sure you can go about how long will you be gone for?" As Kurama somewhat go, "I'd possibly say 2 to 3 days, because the first, if we'd go, would probably say somewhat, leave around, say, if we do leave, we'd leave tomorrow at midday, and you'd somewhat say just getting, it'd be somewhat say getting to know, so my kitchens the next day should everyone, the Kitsune clan or summoning clan would come, and they could all see her, and they would then, during that day, should also, me and Dad would go around to somewhat show her what they, what they all do, what they specialise, training and other stuff like that. And the third day, up until around midday, would just be some training. Me and Dad would be some doing some training till we leave. Actually, would just somewhat not go, "Well, sure you can." "Well, yeah, go right ahead, though just make sure you're back by the last day of the month, as not the last day of the month, the day before the last day of the month, as that's roughly when we'd be leaving, because the Kazakage's come to Konoha with his 3 children." Kurama would nod and would remember Naruto talking to Gaara, and as such, so he'd somewhat understand why Gaara would be coming, and she'd quickly realise why the others would come in to see their friend, see the person who would change their brother for the better. And sorry for the background noise, guys, which you could probably hear, possibly a shower going yeah, I think parents are having a shower anyway. Carry on. You guys probably didn't need to know, but I felt like I should say it anyway. So, yes, you just nod as they would go their separate ways, and now, well, they'd all go into their bedrooms, living quarters, their bedrooms, with a bathroom and closet where they could store their clothes if they wanted to. They'd go, hey, what did you ask? What was she talking to Sensei about? It's like, just had to ask him about something, because, well, tomorrow at midday, me and you will be leaving to go to the kitchen. Clan is to go. Really? I get to somewhat, see the clan that I'm somewhat partially related to. It's like, well, yeah, more so not what you're related to, but you're, guess, second race, because you're somewhat so you're more so three quarters, say either 4/5 human and 1/5 kitsune, or you're somewhat one quarter, say 3/4 human and 1/4 kitsune. Not exactly sure. You could also be half and half, though the kitsune part is more tells beast. But yeah, that is somewhat the race you're related to. So just none goes. So what will be somewhat doing that is say when we get there, and she'd say what she said to Kakashi. Naruto just somewhat would say okay after hearing what they could possibly be doing there, and Naruto would say, well, come then, it's late as it is, so let's go to bed. Can just nod, and they'd somewhat get undressed they'd get undressed and actually have a bath they'd somewhat just have a bath together. It wasn't it was somewhat of a decent sized bath. So yeah, nice blood room and that. You're all your imaginations are going to be different, which is fine. But yeah, they'd somewhat they'd just have the bath together, why not? And after that they'd get dried and go off to bed. And and I'm gonna end it here, guys. I know this is a tad bit short, but you also will be having I know I said I'd be saying I'm saying this a bit late now, definitely late, but I know I said I think Mondays what if that I'd be doing part 11 Friday, but I thought because Naruto was Kaguya's reincarnation, that has 3 parts, and I was I've pushed this far back enough, so part 12 will be out Friday, so you get 2 parts this week, though next week Monday will be what if Naruto was a Uchiha, Wednesday will be what if Naruto was Kaguya's reincarnation, and what if female Naruto was Kaguya's what if female Naruto was a Uchiha, what if female Naruto was Kaguya's reincarnation, and then Friday will be part 13 of this what if. So yeah, and well, yeah, if you guys enjoyed this, tell me in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed it, and I'll just say that if you want part 12, tell me in the comments down below. And yes, stay safe, guys. Have a good day or night, depending on where you are and whenever you're watching this. And good. Bye.